So a lot of folks come forward with an idea, and they say, well, if I get funded, I think these 3 guys will come and work for me. And each one is an expert. You know, that sort of works, but really, it's people that can work together. And the people that get the most money overall, and I'm saying this anecdotally, are people that have about 10 years of experience in a field. They really know that field well and have a working team with them. Okay, those people get the money. Now, most of you folks aren't going to have that, but your job is to try to make it look like you have that. And find people that work around you and create that impression, because that really helps a lot. Obviously, if you're a genius like Steve Jobs, they may see that. But generally speaking, the way they judge you is by who you attract and how good they are. So that's something you really want to keep in mind.
The point that he was making, I just want to emphasize, it's not about the team, it's about the leader who drives the team. And so we all want a team. Certainly it's balancing out all the issues that are needed in terms of the complex nature of growing the business, whatever it may be. But it's an individual who does in fact have that first ability to lead, drive the team to create the team. But then it's also about the creation of teammanship. How are they actually getting the best out of the people? Well, I tend to have a lot of meals with people I love to eat. So I like to go out with the team and see how they finish each other's sentences. Or if it was just, as you were just sort of kind of describing at the Temkin Village, to sort of create it so it looks like a charade. And that's never really workable, and most times, of course, it fails. So yes, teams are good, real teams are better, but a team really led by somebody is the best.
Every time somebody mentions the book title, I'm going to repeat my Twitter handle. So it's C there. Would like to. One careful point.
By the way, he could write a better book than I can. I would read his.
I tried to write a book. Nobody wanted to publish it. That's why I started blogging.
I will help you.
Okay. One careful thing I would say about co-founders and founding teams. There's a very distinct difference between the two. If you're going to pick a co-founder, that's somebody that you should consider as a potential board member to join you at the meeting to help run the company. Just because somebody was the first designer to come onto your team, and you want to give them a little extra equity for coming on because you didn't really have the money to pay, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're a co-founder. They might be a founding employee, but a co-founder is really going to share the management responsibility of running the business with you. Founders are where the buck stops. It's a little different than just being the first engineer who happened to join my team. So very careful distinction there. Co-founders usually have up and over 20% equity in a team. So don't show up with a team of like, hey, here are my 5 co-founders. That's your founding team, but that's not all the people responsible for running the business.
I actually agree. I think yes, a team is important as long as you know the structure and everybody's responsibility. When I invest into a team, I usually like to know, who am I speaking to? If everything goes to shit, basically, I don't want to see 5 of you guys giving me opinions. I'm dealing with one person. Do all you guys know exactly what your responsibility is? So I definitely agree. And a team member, just because you drew a picture doesn't mean you have as much say-so, in the company as I do. So I agree with that. Guys, I'm going to open it up in a little while for a couple of questions before we go on to, you're not going to just hear us speak. You're going to be able to ask a couple of questions, but we're going to go with one more question for the panel, and then I'm going to open it up. So outside of capital, how do you generally like to add the most value to a company? Is it introductions to consumers, to customers, other investors, industry knowledge, board service, cash on demand? Talent?
I think the most useful thing you can do for a company, as soon as anybody raises money, what's the first thing they do? Go hire somebody. Because most of the times in these tech companies, or these innovative startups, is that the money is spent on human capital. And so when I first joined first round capital, an investor from another fund, Nick Beam from Matrix, who funded Guild and a whole bunch of other companies, told me the most useful thing you can do for a company is to help them make a great hire. Because as a board member, I show up once a month, I check in by email, I'm not there every day. But if I help you make the key marketing hire or the key tech hire, that person's there day in and day out. They're member number 3, 4, 5. So I've probably helped place about 30 or so startup employees in the last 2 years. And recruiting is a really, really big thing for me. So investor, if you want to do this full time, I think Investor's going to help introduce you to top tier talent or advisors, because that's probably the most useful way that you can help a company.
I just want to say that of all of the VCs in New York, Charlie is probably one of the most insightful, the most well connected. Whether you wrote a book or not, doesn't matter.
You should buy Brian's book.
No. There's a depth in the context of what he's just said that shouldn't go missed. Because of his depth of contacts and relationships and trust, and teamwork, right? He's got this ability to sort of find the right people when he needs to reach out to them. So, any of you do need that, you can go into the HR, business as well to do that. But it's just really phenomenal, the depth of his contacts. From my vantage point, so I spent 40 years doing strategic communications for IBM and Sony and a whole host of perhaps hundreds of other companies. So I am a real tough person when it comes to marketing and how well you know and understand your customer. It's huge to me, it's everything. Yes, I just brought a CEO into one of my clients, it's not a forte, but I will wrestle you to the ground and ask you questions about who and what your customer is thinking and doing and how you're responding to their needs. That's a huge part of your success, and I've got the years of experience to do it, and I'm really hard on my customers and on the companies I invest in. So excuse me, they are my customers, right? But this attitude of angel investors that sort of say, I'm here to help you, is better than I'm here to tell you what to do. So I sit back, and it's the opportunity for them to ask questions. And I wait for that. But if they're not asking the right questions, I'll certainly jump in.
I can attest to that because I'm working with Brian on a deal right now, and he really is tough. And his book is better than mine, but mine will come out first. Okay, here's the thing. I'm actually the bearer of bad news. I do stuff for people, and I really don't get a lot of thanks for it because I tell them, I tell them what's wrong. And what happens is when you have an idea, the way I look at an idea, the way I look at a startup, is it's kind of a red herring. You have a great idea, and it probably is a great idea, but you don't know what that idea is until it hits the marketplace. Mike Tyson said, everyone's got a plan until they get a punch in the mouth. And if it was Mike Tyson giving a punch in the mouth, you probably are not going to be around for the second one. So, if you're lucky, you will have somebody like me who can help shepherd you through this and be at workshops where you get feedback from the marketplace, and if you're lucky, you can pivot. You hear this a lot. I'm going to pivot. Well, pivot means that you keep the structure intact, and you just kind of change the direction. You're lucky if that's what happens to you. In most cases, what happens to you is you're forced to deconstruct and rebuild everything from just a fragment of what you started with. And that takes a lot of guts to do. And the people that can help tell you that aren't the people that you're going to love. People that you're going to love are the ones that tell you, great, yeah, yeah, you're smart, how good you are. You're probably not. So, I wish I could tell you that Brian actually is one of the people that is able to do both. To tell you what the truth is and to still love it. But you do need somebody who can tell you God's honest truth. And believe me, if your customers could, they usually don't, but if ever they do, you must listen to them. And you must have somebody who can guide you when they do. Okay? And that's the best that I've done with the folks who have done well.
So, I think we're going to start the Q&A, as mentioned.
Correct. So, are you guys saying that the value you add is to be able to give honest feedback, or basically, outside of capital, what other value do you add? Because on Shark Tank, right, some of the people I do deals with, they call me and they expect to come over for Thanksgiving after that because they think we're friends and family, to that point. After the 10th or 20th or 30th or 40th call, sooner or later you're working for them. So at what point?
You should be.
Are you?
Yeah.
I have too much time to do that. See, when I invested in the genius Steve Jobs, he never called me for any kind of advice. I couldn't even get an Apple computer for free, right? So, at what point do you draw the line and you say, I just don't have that much time to babysit?
Then you shouldn't invest.
Then you should invest.
Yeah.
Then, are you investing, or are you becoming, we all have ideas and we all have concepts. So you don't have enough time to run your own business at that point. Do you ever come across that? It's a full-time business investing.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you're an angel investor and you're serious about it, I'm invested in the company I'm giving money to.
Okay.
I'm there for you 24/7. I'll crawl through the gutter naked through shards of glass at 3 a.m. Really? Okay.
Oh, I have a company for all you guys. Don't worry about it. And just remember that. Oh, no problem. Okay. So that's a really good answer because, you know, a lot of people feel, you know, this, hey, I gave you the cash. You know what? I said I was going to set you up with a couple of guys, or I said I was going to get the company to this level. Stop calling me.
I think the key is understanding both sides, right? What's the expectation? Are you somebody who is basically providing capital, which, by the way, is really important because if you don't have the capital, you know. And I think different types of investors play different roles. Like if you syndicate out around and you say, listen, I'm raising $1 million. You know, I'm going to get 200 from Charlie. I'm going to get, you know, 300 from New York Angels. And, this fundraising thing's kind of a pain in the neck. You like my idea. You're happy to put in 500. And you're never going to hear from me. I'm never going to hear from you. I got a couple of guys around that I'm going to, like, call up all the time when they need shards of glass. Brian's my guy. But, you know, as long as both sides have a reasonable expectation level that's communicated, that's what you're going to do.
Now that's perfect because see, there's a lot of companies that they're so busy trying to get the money, and then they get the money and then they realize the money is not necessarily everything. They may need distribution. They may need knowledge on how to gear up the company or legal or things like that.
Right, so let's change the language. I won't say it in your microphone, but it's in my book. Just change the language. You're not money raising, you're investor raising. And once you start thinking in those terms, everything changes. There you go.
Good. Why don't we open it up? Are there mics out there? Or you want me
No,
to-
just grab one of the mics.
Well, let these guys have a mic. I'll walk around so you get out there.
Oh, that's
Okay.
perfect.
All right. Who has a question here? Start right here.
What if you need a partner, not necessarily money, but more of a strategic partner? Money's always good, but aligning yourself with more somebody who's already done this before.
What type of partner are you talking about? You're talking about founder, co-founder, what, do we have a company or?
It's more on the, we haven't raised money, we've done it all ourselves and we're already up and running, but we want to go to the next level. So we've already done several $1 million of sale. Now we want to align and go into more of a...
Just keep selling. Don't raise any money. You have several $1 million of sales, don't raise money. Just keep selling.
You know, I just want to say this. So I have a lawyer friend, and one of his great conversation pieces is what happens when partners fall out of love with each other. So I just want to point out to you, I don't mean love it. You know, you really got to pick your partners carefully, and it's a big responsibility, and you've got to structure that properly. Okay, so you have a good exit. But what I would suggest is that we're at an interesting time right now, and that is, thanks to the, well, not thanks to the economy, there are a lot